Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a pistol that is really hot right now. This is the Sig Sauer P322 or the P322, depending on the nomenclature that you prefer. This is a 22 caliber version, or I guess scaled down version caliber wise, obviously, of the Sig P365. It kind of has that same styling. And this is supposed to be one of the nicest 22 pistols that is kind of a clone of a bigger version that's on the market right now. So I'm really excited to get to shoot this. But before I talk about the things that I like and don't like about this pistol, I always want to thank all the people that make these reviews possible. First and foremost is the owner of this awesome gun, who even let me fire it for the very first time. This gun had not been shot before I took it to the range, and that is a local friend to the channel named Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you so much for letting me borrow this awesome pistol. I want to thank my Patreons as always, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. And as always, the person that makes all these range reports financially feasible, because he provides me with all of the ammunition, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. Now, I know if you're coming to this range report today, you're looking at the P322 or the 322. As I said, not really sure what to call it. But unfortunately, this gun does not utilize grip panels. You can't replace this polymer frame. But I know if you like fine firearms like I do, you probably own a Colt 1911. You probably own a CZ75 or a Beretta 92. And all those guns utilize grip panels. And I know if you like nice guns, you're gonna like nice grips. And you're probably in the market for a fine set of quality wood grips. Well, I have the perfect company for you to go check out. Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company. Mark over there is an artist. He is a master craftsman, utilizing a bunch of different exotic woods and materials to make some of the finest grips that you can imagine. He can engrave them with custom logos, engravings, textures, and anything that you can possibly imagine, I guarantee he can make. I'm going to put a link to his website in the description and as a pinned comment. I'm going to ask you guys to go over there, check out and see what he has to offer. I know I'm rolling in some footage of some of his finest work now. If there's something on his website that you don't see but would like to know more about, I guarantee you if you call him or email him through his website, he'll get back to you. He has amazing customer service and he will hook you up. I'm also going to put a discount code in the comment and in the description for 10% off your first order. So please, if you want to support me here at the Texas Gun Vault and support a great American company producing fine grips for firearms, please check out Brownworks. And when you do, please tell them the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so I've already kind of alluded to a little bit what this gun is about. It is a 22 caliber version of the P365, or so I think. I'm pretty much saying that because of the styling of this gun. It does not look like a P320, in my opinion. Maybe it does a little bit. To me, it looks more like the 365, and it is definitely not like one of their legacy guns. It utilizes a polymer frame. Now, being that this is an all-American made 22 and not one of those German Umarex copies of another gun, this thing is supposed to be pretty darn nice, pretty accurate, and supposed to feel more like its big brother counterpart. And, well, does it? Well, I have to say, it really kind of does. And that brings me to the first thing that I really like about this gun. It feels and looks like it's quality. One of my complaints with many of the 22 versions of bigger calibered guns is they have to use cheaper materials, and because they want to keep the cost down, things just don't feel right. Well, if you've ever shot a 320 or a 365, this is going to feel about the same. Now, it definitely doesn't weigh as much, but the quality of the polymer feels exactly the same. The quality of the metal that goes into the slide and the finish looks great. It looks like one of their way more expensive firearms that is chambered in 380 or 9mm. So from a look and build standpoint, it really does feel quality. And that is a huge advantage, as I said, over many of those other 22 clones. The next thing I really like about this gun is the size. Sometimes when it comes to these 22 clones or copies of guns, they can get either a little bit too big or a little bit too small. Now here is the Walther P22. This is my own personal firearm here. And this is kind of a 22 version of the old Walther PPQ. Now, this is a relatively small pistol. Because they made it so small, they could utilize better materials. But then if you have a gun, and I have shot one of the Umarex Colt 1911 22s, they're like a full-size government 1911. But because that gun is so big, they have to make the slide so light, and it kind of feels like pot metal. Now, with a gun this small, I think you lose sight radius, you lose a little bit of accuracy, and if you have larger hands like myself, well, this might not be the most comfortable gun to hold and shoot. It's fine, it has absolutely no recoil, you just kind of wish you had a little bit bigger surface to grab onto. So sometimes they make them a little bit too small. So when they made this, it's more of the size of maybe a Glock 19. It's a little bit bigger. You get a longer grip surface, which is really nice, a longer sight radius. Size-wise, it definitely feels like a Glock 19. Now, speaking of Glock, I also have another gun that I'm going to compare to. Here is the Glock 44. Now, this is also the same size as a Glock 19. And I think they utilize polymers in the slide versus using metal to get that weight down so the slide will cycle more reliably. But I do like the size of this firearm as well. But that's the thing about this gun that I really like. They didn't make it too big, they didn't make it too small. It fits well in your hand for a 22 for what it is. And I think the design of it and the size is great. It's well thought out. Now, usually though, when you go to smaller guns, you lose capacity. Now, something about this gun that I absolutely love are the magazines. The magazines are not too thick at all. They are a double stack 22 magazine. Now, I will say the witness holes on this, or the witness markings on this magazine, say 20. Well, when I was loading this, I could only get it to 18, and I have two magazines that came with the pistol. So they say 20, I was only able to load 18. So I'm not sure why that is. They should just mark it as 18. And this is the biggest advantage over every other pistol on the market if you're going to use the stock OEM mags. So when it comes to my Walther P22, the magazines are only 10 rounds. When it comes to the FN 502, I believe these are 15. So just to get 18, or as it's marked 20 rounds in this magazine, well, that is really cool. And even Glock, when it came to their OEM mags, were only 10 rounds, but you can buy in the aftermarket some from Pro Mag, like this one, which is supposed to hold 18 rounds. Well, these are known to be a little bit problematic. They will sometimes run, sometimes they won't. But I know that Sig is not going to put out a product with a magazine that doesn't work. And I can tell you already at the range, these magazines work great. So you get a lot of capacity in a very small magazine and a fun gun to shoot. Speaking of magazines, they do include something that is really nice. There is a magazine loading tool. And I know what you're thinking. Come on, Jason, it's only a 22. How hard can those magazines be to load? They even have a little assist on the side. Well, because these are supposed to hold 18 or 20 rounds, and these little helpers are not really that big, it's kind of hard to load these magazines. And this loader really helps so much. Normally, I don't use these loading assists, but in this gun, it really did help a lot, and I'm glad they included it in the package. Now let's talk about the features of this gun. It comes with fiber optic sights. Take a look at that. Try to get that in focus right there. Yeah, fiber optic front sight. You have an adjustable rear sight. Once again, let me see if I can get that into focus. Get my big old head out of the way there. Hopefully it will. There we go. There's those adjustable rear sights. Those are great. High visibility, easy to acquire your target, long sight radius. Yeah, everything you would want in some quality pistol sights. Now, I can't dry fire this gun because it is a 22 long rifle. You don't want to damage the chamber, but I can tell you when I was shooting this, the trigger on this is absolutely fantastic. It feels great. It's very, very light. So the controls on this gun are great. They're what you would expect. The trigger is great, the sights are great, and the build quality seems to be outstanding. Now, of course, I always try to find something about the gun that I think they can improve or that I don't like. After all, if everything is glowing about the gun, well, I don't know how critical you can actually be. Well, there is one thing about this gun that I do not like. Now, as you can see, the back of the gun here, we do not have a hammer. It's just a big old piece of plastic at the rear. Now, you're probably wondering, is this striker fired? Well, the answer is no, unfortunately. This is actually a hammer-fired gun. So I can tell that because when I pull the slide back, I can look underneath the slide, and once again, I don't know if this is going to come across here, you can actually see the back of the firing pin. Now, does this mean this gun is not quality? No, it just means that it has an internal hammer, and it is not true to its big brothers. The big brothers, the 320 and the 365, are striker fired. And so they changed the mechanism completely in this gun. One of the things I will always applaud Glock for when it came to the G44 is this is a striker fired gun. The mechanism is exactly the same. I kind of feel like, well, if you're going to have to use a hammer, and I know to make a 22 it's a little bit easier, just do what FN did and just put the hammer on there. It just looks a lot better, and it's more authentic. You're not hiding the fact it's a hammer-fired gun when you're making a 22 version of a striker-fired gun. I think you're just being true to your clients and the people that buy your guns. But that's really the only thing about this gun I don't like. Having that hammer doesn't really seem to affect the trigger pull at all. As I said, it seems to be crisp with a very short reset. Well, I've talked about this gun enough. Let's get this gun to the range. I'm going to load up one of these big old magazines to full capacity. As I said, only 18 rounds. I'm going to set up the target at 7 yards and shoot this gun for the very first time. I'm very excited. Everyone says they love this gun. It's very accurate. Well, I'm about to find out. So let's see how I do. And for me, this gun is very, very accurate. Normally, I don't shoot these 22 caliber versions of bigger guns very well. This one, I shoot great. The trigger is outstanding for being a hammer-fired gun, not a striker-fired gun. It is very, very nice. But I will say after shooting it, of course, it's only 22 long rifle, so it has almost no recoil whatsoever. That coupled with the weight of the gun, it kind of feels like a toy. It is really, really light. And once again, comparing it to some other guns I have here on the table, like the Walther P322, well, this has a lot of metal in the frame. It's kind of heavy. It makes you really feel like this is a tool and not a toy. One of the things I liked when it came to the FN 502 is this has quite a bit of metal in it, and it feels, well, not as heavy as the 509, it still has a little bit of heft to it. Holding this gun, it's like a toy. It is exceptionally light, but it feels quality in your hand, but that weight, honestly, is a little bit deceptive. All right, so now I'm going to set the target out at about 14 or 15 yards, doubling this distance. I call this the accuracy portion. No, I don't bench rest them. I'm just curious if I can shoot the guns accurate at a further distance. How does it affect my sighting? Well, I'm going to load up the magazine to about 15 rounds. I don't want to waste too much ammunition on this. I'm going to go for the head on this silhouette target, see how I do, and if this group opens up any. And as I said, out of all those other 22 pistols I've shown you today, I shoot this one the best. It just shoots naturally. I think it has a lot to do with that grip angle. Just holding it and pointing it is just a very natural thing. It is well designed, well thought out. The sights are awesome and the trigger is awesome. Well, I'm now going to give my wife Becky a shot. When I told her we were going to be shooting a 22, she got really excited. She likes to put a lot of rounds down range. And of course, shooting 22 is a little bit more affordable than shooting 9, 45, or 5.56. So if you're going to own a gun like this, you're probably going to end up shooting it a bunch. And she likes to shoot. So I'm really curious to see what she thinks of this pistol. As I said, she loves 22s. She likes the fact they're cheaper and lighter recoil because she just wants to go to the range and have fun. Well, let's put a magazine in this gun for her and let's see what she thinks. So after shooting it, she actually wasn't as impressed with it as I was. She did mention it does feel like a toy and that she didn't like that. She also mentioned something that I had not even noticed before she mentioned it, and that was it has a flat trigger. You know, I don't really like flat face triggers, but the fact that I didn't notice that when shooting actually says a lot about it. I'm very sensitive to that for some reason. I just don't like them, but I didn't even notice it with this trigger. So good on Sig for making such a great 22 trigger that I didn't even notice that. But she did, and she didn't like it. And I also noticed from standing behind her, the gun had some erratic ejection. The ejection was always very strong. Sometimes it would eject straight up, sometimes to the 3 o'clock position, sometimes to the 5 or the 6 o'clock position. It was kind of weird and erratic. Now 22 is not going to be as consistent as 9mm or 45, but I kind of expect it to be relatively consistent, and it worries me that maybe we're going to have some malfunctions sometime in the future. But so far, the gun has run great. All right, so the next test I want to do is the defensive use test, or the quick magazine change. Well, I know that most of us are not going to carry 22 for defensive use, but some people will because it's all they can handle. You might be elderly or extremely recoil sensitive. And so, will this gun work? Can you fire it fast? Can you change these magazines out really fast? Well, I'm about to show you. But before I do, I want to talk about something I discovered that I do not like. Before I filmed this, I had loaded up one of these magazines. I had the slide open, and when I inserted it, the slide actually closed. I didn't use the slide release. Now, I find this to be a problem. I'm okay if a gun closes on magazine insertion, if it does it every single time. I'm also okay if the gun stays open, but I don't like it when sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I actually repeated this a number of different times just to be sure, but it definitely seems like when the magazine is loaded and you insert it kind of firmly, that slide's going to close. So I might stutter when it comes to getting this gun back in action. The slide might stay open like I expect it to on most guns, but it might close. So we're about to see what's gonna happen. So let's see how I do.
Ready to aim. Once you start
And let me tell you, you can shoot this gun fast. The trigger is awesome. Getting the magazine out, it just flies out, and to put the magazine back in, it was really easy to find. But as you could probably tell, the slide did close upon reinsertion, and I stumbled with it. I was expecting it to stay open, and it slowed me down just a bit. I would like it to stay either open or closed every time, just so I know what to expect. So I don't know if that is just indicative of this particular example or all models across the board. So if you own one of these guns, let me know what your gun does. I would love to know as a data point. All right, there's one more test that I want to do, and it's not really a test, it's just to have some fun. I want to do a complete mag dump with this thing. With 18 rounds, how fast can I shoot this trigger? I was really impressed with the last test, so I know this one's probably going to go fast and just be fun. After all, who just doesn't want to dump a bunch of 22 rounds down range as fast as you can? And yes, that was fun, it was fast, and it was easy to keep all the rounds on target. I was just point shooting there, and I think everything landed on the silhouette. So yeah, that's awesome and a lot of fun. So what are my final thoughts on the Sig P322? Well, you can really tell that I am impressed with this, and I think its biggest selling points is the quality, the sights, trigger, and capacity. And that's pretty much everything you would want from a 22. I really think this was well thought out, well designed, well built, and if you can find one right now, you definitely need to pick one up. You know, if you shoot a lot of 22 and you shoot these other guns like the Glock 44 or the FN 502, well, you realize these are really high quality. They're a lot better than some of the other 22s that are on the market that, as I said, are clones of bigger guns that just use cheaper material. And Sig finally got into the game. Now, I know for a long time they had the Mosquito. This is way beyond the quality of the Mosquito. That, in my opinion, was a very cheaply manufactured gun with a lot of problems. This gun is nothing like that. This is the gun you've been wanting Sig to make in 22 for a long time. It is just a new gun from the ground up. And I love the size of these magazines. That is awesome. Glock should have done this from the very beginning. So, as you can see, I'm gloating about this gun. This gun is awesome and exceeded my expectations. So you already know what the star rating for this review is going to be. I'm going to have to give it 5 out of 5 stars. Even though it has the flat face trigger, which honestly is the only thing I don't like about it after shooting it. But as I said, I didn't even notice it. So I'm not even going to ding any points for that. And the fact it's hammer fired, I didn't even notice that either. Normally the striker fired guns shoot a little bit better in rim fire. This one, nope. And I could live with it having that internal hammer, even though I know it's a lie. It looks like it's striker fired, but it's actually hammer fired. But it exceeded my expectations. It ran flawlessly, very accurate, outstanding trigger. 5 out of 5 stars for the Sig P322 or 322. I would love to know what you guys think if you own one of these or have had a chance to shoot one. Do you like it as much as I do? Yeah, it feels like a toy, but in some ways having the gun so light is also pretty darn awesome. This is the perfect gun to introduce somebody to firearms with. If they've never shot a pistol, this is going to be a gun that's going to be reliable, easy to shoot, controls are understandable, it's going to be accurate, and you'll be able to move them up to something bigger relatively quick. Plus, it's a lot of fun, affordable to shoot, and there's nothing else I can really say. It's just fun. So let me know in the comment section below, is this a 22 pistol you've been looking at? Are you interested in buying one? So as always, thanks for watching.